All right, so let me touch on a bit. Let me return, I should say, to the world of Neon Girls, right? Yes, this is
Right.
the brand new show from, showrunner Ansel Harris, founder of the Vilvengers universe right now. And yeah, this is the second episode of Neon Girls. This is his newest web series. This episode is called Storytime, right? And what it's about, right? Well, it follows from what we saw before, where we're introduced to this post-apocalyptic Trinidad, and we're introduced to these three bounty hunters by the name of Nyx, Naz, and Nova, right? And in this case, well, in the last episode, we saw them in their element. We saw how they work together as a team, as they find bounties, if you will, right? Because they are bounty hunters, right? So we introduced to near the end a couple, I should say three characters, right? So, well, the first couple of characters, the first two characters basically being this minister and a relative of hers, right? So he is this bounty hunter, I would say, not so much a guide, right? But just a guy that you reach out to, just like the plug, if you will, right? He's a guy who he knows the ins and outs of just the bounty hunting scene in this future, and he knew how to get in touch with certain people, right? So this minister come to him and say, all right, I have a job for you. I need to catch this person. I'm paying X amount of cash. And he has two picks, right? In his mind, two best bounty hunters that he know, right? But she's like, no, I want the Neon Girls. They are the best, right? He's like, okay, no problem, right? So this episode, as it's called Storytime, right? This is just basically kind of giving us some character breakdown. This giving us an idea of who these characters are, how they work and all that kind of stuff, right? So like Nova, for example, she is the sort of like cyborg character. We learn, how she works as well. She gets a little maintenance work done, with her cybernetic arm and stuff like that. Also points for the cameo from this actress. I forgot the name right now. Forgive me. She's one of the co-stars of Sister Bond, right? So she plays this somewhat eccentric old woman. I'll talk about her in a bit. Yeah, who pretty much fine-tunes her, right, before she goes back out to duty, right? There's one other character who is out buying drugs, but in the world of Neon Girls, it's more about like medication, but you see just how underground it's basically like just the underworld nature of it all, just getting medication, right? But it actually does some good amount of world building, right? Because you understand how how products and items are acquired here, right? Because it's set up in the first episode as well too, but to get it here as well. Yeah, Tobago is the more is the, well, compared to two islands, right? Tobago is basically where all the rich people are, right? Where the 1%ers are, right? So yeah, when you want to get like particular items, in this place medication, yeah, you can't go to no pharmacy no more because it's the future though. So in this case, you had to find a hustler, or in this case, a drug dealer, right? And you had to work, you had to work some now. You had to have the right amount of money, and boom, right? So there's that setup, right? There's also this subplot involving one of the members who is just enamored by history, and she wants to learn more about the world that was, just how Trinidad was before she was born, right? She wants to learn about Calypso and all that kind of stuff. There's a great moment where she wants to learn about DVDs, right? Because at the time of this, I think it's in the 2070s or 2080s, yeah, DVDs are archaic now, right? So there's a nice little setup there, right? But most importantly, you see that same guy, right? That same bounty hunter plug, right? The guy who knows everybody, right? And you see how he works, right? Because he now, because he's going off of what the minister asks him to do, right? So he's trying to set things up, right? But he also has another plan in mind, right? Involving that same, deal that was made to him, right? And I'll stop there, right? So as far as just giving us character backgrounds and whatnot, I think that this episode really, really works. So I didn't expect it was going to go in that direction, but I think that it was a wise choice to, dedicate the second episode to do that instead of like waiting halfway into the show or near the end of the halfway mark to say, oh, these are the characters and how they were before and why they work the way they work and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a real it's a really smart call, I should say, in terms of giving us this character breakdowns, early on in the season here, right? Now I'm not sure how long this show is gonna last for, right? But I do hope that, just say it out there. I hope that the third episode is not gonna be the last one, right? And because that would make this episode kind of pointless when you really think about it, right? Because I do hope that the story picks up even more and we see more of what really is going on, right? But as far as just this downtime in terms of just exploring the characters, seeing them in the elements, what makes them tick, so to speak, I think this episode really works, right? In particular, that one guy, right? The one who was, say, organizing things, right? I think, like, just acting wise for these moments, I think that it is really solid as well. Because the actors get a chance to be, for lack of a better term, natural, right? With the exception of the actress who plays Nova, because she's essentially this cyborg or robot, right? So right. She is playing robotic. That's all I'll say without spoiling anything, right? So it works, right? All right, so the actress I was referring to earlier on is Selena Lyons, right? I would say that she got a chance to step outside of her sister Bond comfort zone and do something a little bit different, right? Now, for me, how she came off as, right? This is no disrespect to the writing or the actor, right? She really reminded me of like those old eccentric. These old guys that you would see like in a martial arts film, right? Because she has that kind of mannerism, that kind of vibe to her, right? Where she's kind of cackling a little bit. She's very eccentric and weird, and the way how she moves and whatnot, right? Like in those old school kung fu flicks, they always have, like, I'll try example, right? The guy who trains Jackie Chan in Drunken Master, right? The old dirty bastard, right? Yes, that is where ODB got Old Dirty Bastard from, right? That character is that, right? In case you know. Yeah, is that kind of really old, eccentric kind of, they just kind of act kind of weird and they sound weird, that's, I feel like that's what she was kind of tapping into unconsciously, right? And it works, right? In a really weird way, but I felt want to make it work though, just from let me just say from a hairstyling perspective, is if she had looked older, or a makeup perspective, right? If she looked older, if she like had gray hair, or she did, like, they just made a considerable effort to make her look old, because yeah, she does literally look like how she looked like in Sister Bond. So her playing an old woman, even though she looks young, was kind of weird at first, but because of how she just went in on the role, like, just kind of let it slide, right? But I just felt like with that moment, I felt like because she's the old, kind of the old eccentric woman, and that's what they're going for. Yeah, they could have really make an effort to make her look old, right? Instead of just making the eccentricities of her speak for themselves, right? I felt like she should have looked the part, right? That's the best way to sum it up, right? But the moment itself that she was in works, right? Now, if I just have a gripe with this, right? There's these numerous moments, not even occasion, but numerous moments where scenes will glitch into each other, right? And right. It's post-production glitches, right? I get, all right, so I understand stylistically why they're there. Like, it's meant to look stylized, right? That's the point of it, right? But it was to the point where at times I was wondering if it was just there to act as scene transitions, right? I'm not just talking about like from sequence to sequence. I'm talking about from shot, reverse shot, right? You will see these glitches, right? You will see them in certain scenes, right? I'm just there wondering, are they just meant to be shot, like, just to represent, like I wasn't sure if it was to show like some kind of mental state that a character is going through, or is it just some kind of condition that's going on around the characters that causes them to see things in a glitchy kind of way. It was kind of unclear to me, but I feel like it was just there to just look stylized, but I felt there should have been extra thought put into them, right? Like, I don't mind them being transitions from like sequence to sequence. I don't mind that, right? Or if it's just from someone's peripherals or perspective, I have no problem with that, right? But when it just sort of happens just sporadically, I'm just there like, all right. Like, all right, I get that the show is set in the future and all that kind of stuff, and it's supposed to be cyberpunk inspired. I get that, but you don't have to do the transitions like that to show me that. Like, I know the type of world it is, right? So in other words, just to make a long story short, there has to be a purpose for those moments, and not just there like, oh, I just want a shot reverse shot thing to look cool. Like, no, come on, right? I do like the music in this too, right? It's the same from before, but there's like some new songs thrown into the mix. Just this vaporwave kind of synth heavy kind of music as well. But it adds to the tone of the series, right? Which is very cyberpunk inspired, right? So it works there, right? And just lastly, I just felt like even with the emphasis on character development and all that kind of stuff, I felt like the story behind it, like the story that's going on, is still kind of taking its time, right? It's still kind of taking a little while to get to the point. Like, okay, like, all right, this is where things are going to reach a certain level, and we have to, like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen next time? I felt like we didn't really get that, right? But I will say this lastly before I wrap up here, right? Because I mentioned that there were 3 characters that were introduced near the end of the first episode, right? There's one where I wasn't sure what her role was, right? But it's actually fleshed out just a little bit near the end, right? It's this mother, I'm assuming, I assume it's the mother of one of the Neon Girls, and she is searching for her for some reason. We don't know for what reason as yet, but from what we see here, it's like she's on the hunt. She's searching right now, but we still don't know what's really going on, right? And I felt like here we could have just gotten a little bit more detail. Like that could have been part of that character's backstory as well, right? Even though I understand it's just a scene that they zeroing in. So we're not getting like a lot of flashbacks or anything like that, right? Even though with her, you get a nice little bit of flashback moments here or there, which I thought totally worked, right? But I felt like with that reveal, with that person looking for her, we could have gotten a little bit more detail into why that person is so adamant in finding her, right? So that's that. But yeah, in terms of just giving us a little bit more world building of Neon Girls, I think this episode really works here. It's just, I still find that the plot is just taking a little too much of its time to get rolling, right? So I hope that with the next episode, it does that, right? And I do hope that the glitchiness of the editing, again, I'm not sure if it's just intentional or not, or if it's just meant to show the mental state or whatever of what's going on in the world, but I felt like that could have been explained, or at least stated why this happened in the show itself, right? In this episode. But yeah, that being said though, this is still shaping up to be a really engaging and really entertaining series, man. And I really hope that we don't have to wait too long for the next episode. And I really hope that we do get a few more episodes. I feel like there's more story to be told here. So yeah, just can't wait to see what we get next here with Neon Girls.